Today we are going to talk about the most alarming aspect of technology, and that's sustainability. I'm sure you cannot even imagine what is technology doing to sustainability. We are talking about sustainability in every walks of life, right? And most of us, in fact, all of us don't realize that whenever we pick those mobile phones and write a text and an email, we are creating 0.5 gram of CO2. Did you know this? So, that's negligible, right? But globally, so we have around 6.6 billion mobile users across the world. I'm not counting the tablets, I'm not counting the laptops, I'm not counting the computers here, the desktops here, just the mobile phone users. So if each one of us send one message a day, write one email, take one picture, we are generating tons and tons of CO2. Sounds exciting? So, what is changing? And the change is data is becoming the biggest polluter of CO2 without we even realizing. Like we invented plastic, right? Plastic was never a CO2 polluter. And now what are we doing? We are cleaning up those plastics. We created industries, we created chemicals, we never realized it's a polluter. And that is what we are doing sitting right now. We are creating lots of data. How much data am I creating? Data is exponentially growing. I met a lot of gentlemen here who are doing drones. Please raise your hands who are doing drones. Please raise your hands if you believe in AI. Please raise your hands if you believe in doing, yes. So I have almost 50% of people raising their hands. What are we doing? We are contributing a lot to a lot of data. एक दिन ये कचरा बन जाएगा, ये सारा data कचरा बन जाएगा. Why? We'll come to that now, later, basically. But by 2030, we are expected to do a data growth of yottabyte. Now, what is a yottabyte? Would you like to take a plunge on guessing what a yottabyte is going to look like? So a yottabyte is 1,000 zettabytes. It's 1 trillion terabytes. And if I make it simple, by 2030, each and every human on planet, if we are carrying 500 mobile phones, we are going to generate that much amount of data, 500 mobile phones data, which is going to be 1 yottabyte. This is just 2030. It's just here around the corner. Maybe I'll have some more white here. What is the most alarming part of it? We have 60 to 70% of the data which we generate, which we actually never refer to. It's just a pile of garbage. It's just a pile of garbage, and we don't know how to utilize that information. Let's look at the new technology fix. Even before I go there, I'll tell you what happened with me. 2016, I gave birth to my son. His name is Rayan. He's 6 years old now. And I go to my office, and they suddenly decided that I am vegetable. Why? Because my brain cannot work anymore. I'm just out of pregnancy. All the issues what a woman is expected to have. So I have a seat, and I'm saying, can you give me something to work on? And they said no. The way of saying it was very diligent. I was subtly told, you should be looking after the family. We are going to give you time to take care of your baby. So you work on small things. I was like, perfect. And that's when I stumbled upon Bitcoin. And that's when I invested my first money. I sold my stocks and I purchased my first Bitcoin. But that was when I invested in a Bitcoin. It was $1,000. And I lost all my Bitcoins to Bitcoin mining. Do you know what is a Bitcoin mining? Do you know what some mining is? Digging up. Yes. So what you do is that you can only dig up when the resource is there. So if it's a coal mine, you already have a coal. If it's a gold mine, you already have gold. So you can dig it up. But it's a Bitcoin. There is no mine. Right? It's a virtual thing. So what you do is that you take the Bitcoins from others, you reinvest it and you mine it. So it's like solving the algorithm fastest. So it's like I send out the Bitcoin and you have to guess the price of it, or there's a puzzle around it, you have to solve the quiz of it. So now I'm talking about the fastest working computers here, the fastest working graphical processors here, which are going to consume more and more of electricity. And in my free time, while my gentle manager thought that I am vestible, I created a lot of CO2 because I started Bitcoin mining server at my office. And then there was a bill. Obviously, they were not able to find that it was me. And since it is years now, I know they're not going to blame me because I don't work for that office anymore. So this is what Bitcoin has generated. It has generated 200 million tons of CO2 since its launch. And most of it attributes to the 3 years of Corona. That is when Bitcoin went to $60,000, and I was like, my dream of going to Harvard is now successful. But I lost all my money to mining, so from the rags I fall to, from the riches I fell to rags, okay, and I was back to square one. But this is what we don't realize about technology. This is what we don't realize about any technology which is very fascinating. We all want to onboard it. We all want to onboard it without being aware. Very less did I know that every time you are creating all this data, every time all this data is being stored, it is traveling over the network. And when it travels over the network, it is consuming electricity. And when whatever consumes electricity creates a carbon footprint, just remember that. When you go back, when you leave this room, say to everybody, if it is consuming electricity, it's creating carbon footprint, be it be a bulb or an AC or whatsoever, or your mobile phones. So currently today, we have millions of data centers around the world, and they are actually consuming 3%. 1% is wrong over here. It's consuming 3% of electricity, and it is expected to consume 8% of electricity by 2030. Just the data, just your photos, just your emails, just your messages, just what you think is the most important thing in the world to preserve. And it is also said, right, I was talking about the 60 to 70% of the data is not used, is never looked at. Do you know how much electricity or how much CO2 it generates? The global airline industry, how much ever is their carbon footprint, the data which is not being used by us generates the same carbon footprint. And we are actually putting in so much of electricity just to manage that. So only if we can get rid of data. Only if we can decide that data is not important. And how can you do that? Only just by being aware. I would go back to that saying which says, what is the difference between education and literacy? I might be literate, but I might not be educated. And that is where the example which Nupur says, कचरा आँख से निकाल देने से कचरा नहीं निकल जाता है. You have to do your waste management. घर के बाहर हमने पॉलिथीन में बंद करके कहीं रख दिया तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि हमारा घर साफ हो गया. It's going to come back to us. Karma is a bitch, right? And it comes back to us. And this is all what we are doing as a karma. And this is what we are generating. So today we are talking about maintaining all this kachra, and tomorrow, I'm sure, 10 years down the line, we'll be standing here and we'll be talking about how to manage all the data which we have created. So what I would say is that become educated, educate your kids. Going back, why did I ask greenhouse effect? Not to just tell a story, but to make sure that we understand what is greenhouse effect. To relate to it, I never related to it. That's how I actually ended up with Bitcoin now. Creating so much of CO2. Yes, I lost the money. ठीक है, मजा आ रहा था, वो भी ठीक है. But what did I do actually? This is what we do. We love creating things. And once we create, it becomes like a burden to us, and then we start finding ways to actually get rid of that burden. What I would urge to our society, what I would urge to our world today is don't get into that loop again. Don't get into a loop where you are so mobile fascinated, you are so technology fascinated that actually you end up creating which needs to be removed someday. I hope all of you agree to that. We will not be doing a sustainability chapter in future on data. Thank you.